Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. On my continuing series on making the move from Windows or Mac over to Linux, today I'm going to be talking about system uptime and system updates. Now, if you have not seen my original video where I show you how to install VirtualBox and then install Linux Mint within VirtualBox, be sure to check that out in the description area below. Now, one of the things that is often touted when people are comparing Linux to Windows is the fact that there is less disruption in your uptime on Linux, meaning that you're able to keep your Linux operating system up a lot longer. Okay, and so what I mean by that is if you look here under administration, and I do have a program called System Profiler Benchmark, it tells me how long my operating system's been up. So if I check here, currently it's been up for 18 days, 9 hours, and 20 minutes. Now, I've had my Linux system up for way longer than that, where I didn't have to restart the system. Okay. Now, in the whole Windows world, it's not uncommon for a lot of us to have to restart our Windows machines. Okay. And mainly because of Windows system and application updates. That's why the two kind of go hand in hand when it comes to your system uptime. Okay. Now, in general, the reason why you have to normally restart your machine in Windows versus Linux is because the way in which Windows works, a lot of these updates affect files that are deep inside the system. Okay, specifically for like Windows and updates, whether there would be security updates, patch updates, because in Windows, Microsoft, they have this thing called Patch Tuesday, the second of every month, and that usually requires your operating system to restart, because the way in which Windows works is, in general, it will not put in the updates while your operating system is on, because those system files are actually being used, so it can't update them. So that's why it has to restart your machine. Now, in Linux, whenever you do get updates, and you could go right up here to the system updates, and in Linux, you don't necessarily have to restart your machine. Okay, because the operating system, a lot of the files, they don't require it to restart because the files are not being locked at a system level. Okay, now if you have something like a kernel update, yes, you're definitely going to have to restart your machine. And there are some other updates that you still have to restart your machine because they affect the operating system at the system level, and meaning that those updates would not be put in until you restart your machine. But for the majority of updates, you don't have to restart your machine. And so I'm going to show you an example right here. So let me show you right here. What I did here was I went right here to recommended updates. And as you can see here, it shows all the updates that I can install. Okay. Now, before I go ahead and install this, let me show you the differences in how you could manage your system updates in Windows, and then the difference between Linux, because the majority of the tutorials that I do for this, it's primarily for people who are general users, people who use their computers every single day, and primarily, like I said, for real general use. So this is not really catered towards the real technically inclined people. Okay, so the reason why I keep showing this is because I really want to show that you do not have to be a computer expert, or know command line to actually use Linux. Okay, and I have done a video about this before where I feel that Linux is easier to use. Okay, so with all of that being said, so let me show you how typically you manage updates in Windows, okay, which a lot of people are familiar with. Okay, so if you open up here your menu and then you go to settings, you'll notice that there's something called update and security. From here, you could first see your update history. And I don't have a lot of programs installed on this version, okay? So the majority of these updates are from Windows, okay? These are system updates or patches, okay? So if you notice here, I have updates pretty regularly, okay? And if you had other programs installed, they would have their updates as well, okay? So if you've ever used Windows, you normally get a pop-up for either system updates, or you might get some notification for any of the programs you installed to update. Okay, so there's many different areas where it can update. Now you can also change your options on when you want updates to be in place, your restart options, okay? And there's also more advanced options as well, okay, on how you want to receive updates and for which updates primarily related to Windows. And you will notice that, Windows Update, it might update itself automatically when checking for other updates. And so there have been times, and I think anybody who uses Windows will see this, especially Windows 10, is that there will be updates that are actually like downloading in the background. Okay, so you didn't even choose for them to be downloaded, and then they will be downloaded in the background and ready to install. And so even though it didn't actually install the updates, it still downloaded it automatically without your permission, I would say. Okay, so as you can see there, you do definitely have control over Windows updates, okay? But I think it is a little more detailed, as with everything in Windows, okay? There's really a lot of stuff that you have to go through. You actually have to spend time, and it's not just in the Windows updates, it's pretty much in almost everything that you use here, where it's a lot of drill down, okay? There's many different options under each option, okay? So, for somebody who's a general user, this could be confusing. And also, for most people, they're not going to go through all of this, okay? I mean, because it's a lot of stuff for you to learn. For people who are used to this, and especially for geeks, this would seem very easy for them, okay? But in my opinion, in Windows, when it comes to system updates, I just think it's, number one, it is more frequent. And then number two, it can get a little bit more confusing, okay? And so a lot of times people are going to have to restart their Windows operating system a lot more frequently. That's just in general, okay? But like I said, I'm showing you this because in Windows there are ways that you control how often your computer actually restarts, okay? But once again, that does require a little more effort, and that doesn't necessarily mean that Windows might not still download updates in the background or even force you to restart your machine, okay? So in Linux, like I told you earlier, I think it is easier, okay? So in Linux, specifically Linux Mint, I don't get reminders to update, okay? I don't get any pop-ups and stuff. And about the only notification that I see up here is that you see a little, I would say like you notice right there, that means that there are updates. And you put your mouse over it, tells you how many recommended updates, okay? So that's about the only notification that I get. It's very unobtrusive. It doesn't affect your use of the operating system. And also, the way that you control which updates come, or which updates that you actually want to install, all you have to do is go to Edit Preferences, and it gives you some really simple options, okay? Now, this is the more quote-unquote advanced options right here. You could go here for options. You could look at levels, okay? It's very simple. It tells you the levels of security updates or any type of updates, including application updates. There's an auto refresh, and you could also blacklist updates as well. But if you don't want to go through all of this stuff that's a little more detailed, you could also use what's called update policy, and it's really simple. You just check the level that you are secure with, okay, or comfortable with, I would say that. And so for people who are just really general users who don't really want to get into the system much, just keep my computer safe. This right here will only really install the most, I guess, really important updates, or or recommend to install them, okay? Because here in Linux Mint, it doesn't automatically download updates unless you tell it to, okay? So for a lot of general users, I recommend to just leave it here, and it will only install the ones that are most important. But what I also recommend is, if you go here to Preferences and Levels, if you really do not want a lot of recommended updates, I recommend just doing level 1 only, okay? That'll save you a lot of time, okay? So going back to here, I have these updates that Linux recommends, okay? So I only want to install Linux 1 and Linux 2, or I'm sorry, level 1 and level 2. And if you notice, the checkboxes are only there for those, okay? And then you could simply read the updates that you want. And what I like about Linux is that all your updates, both system and application, they're all unified. They're in one area, okay? I don't have the same thing in Windows where I might have your system updates in one place and then your program updates giving you different notifications, and they have different update schedules, okay? So like I said, that gets can be confusing, okay, for a lot of general users. And even for more skilled users, I just think it's a hassle. Whereas here, it's all in one place and it doesn't really bother me at all. And it's easy to control, okay? So in this case, I want to install everything except this. I don't want to install this unified bootloader because I've had issues with that before and it's in beta, and so I don't want to install that, okay? So, but everything else I want to install, okay? And as you get used to using Linux, it's really easy for you to tell which ones you really should install, which ones that shouldn't. I think it's a lot easier than having to remember all the different things that you have to in Windows, okay? So now, once I've agreed that, hey, I want to install these, all you have to do is just install updates right here, and then it'll ask for your password, and then it'll install the updates. You could even do this where it shows your progress, and then I could continue doing what I'm already doing, and I'll just leave that running in real time while I go ahead and go back to Windows, okay? And so yeah, so here, whenever you get a Windows update, I think, like, in my opinion, I would like to not have those updates come all the time, okay? So if I were to use Windows regularly, I would definitely go to the advanced, and I would actually pause updates, okay, for up to 35 days. Because for myself, the reason why I enjoy using Linux in general is because it doesn't get in the way of me using my operating system, okay? And with Windows, there's so many things that get in the way of me just using my operating system, whether it's system updates, whether it's notifications, whether it's advertising, okay, on my operating system, okay? And then that's not even including any other type of privacy issues or data collection that they're doing, okay? So all of these things, they get in the way of me using my operating system, okay? There are constant interruptions, and especially when I have system updates that really stop me using my operating system, and most of the time the system updates, they don't take that long, maybe it's about, including restart time, maybe about 20 minutes, sometimes less, 15 minutes, okay? But sometimes the updates take a lot longer, and there's no guarantees that whenever it is updating that it might not have issues, okay? But the fact of the matter is, whenever you are using Windows, especially when you have system updates, they interrupt your use of your computer. They interrupt your operating system, because you cannot use your computer whenever you are installing all these updates and having to restart, okay? Whereas in Linux, it's doesn't get in the way, okay? All of this stuff is going on in the background, and it's almost done here, and I don't have to restart my machine, unless, like I said, normally when it comes to like really system level stuff, primarily kernel updates, that's when I have to restart the machine, okay? But that doesn't happen very often, and if you do have system level updates, then you're gonna have to eventually restart your computer, okay? But see here, it's installed all the updates, and the only update I didn't install with this Grub 2, but that's it. I have already had these updates installed, and I didn't have to restart my machine. My machine's still running, and so that's why in the whole Linux world, and that's one of the, once again, many advantages of using Linux, is that you're able to use your computer uninterrupted, okay? And so that is it for this episode. I just wanted to show you why in general the system uptime is high on Linux, and how that is related to updates that you get on your operating system, both system level updates and also application updates. So if you had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave it in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, you could leave a like and subscribe. And if you wanted to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.